Okay, now we're going to see, of course, the classical economist position regarding wages and the prices. Remember, we said, that classical economists believe that the interest rate is flexible. Interest rates are flexible, and the flexibility of the interest rate will guarantee that that Say's law, Say's law will hold in in a money economy. So now we're going to see the position of the classical economists regarding wages and the prices. So the position of the classical economist concerning the interest rate. Now we're going to say concerning the wages and prices. Now, of course, the classical economists believe that wages and the prices are flexible. The classical economist believe that wages and prices are flexible. Okay? So, classical economists believe that, most markets, if not all, are competitive. That is, supply and demand operate in all markets. So, if the labor market is experiencing a shortage, then, eventually the wage rate, of course, if the labor market is experiencing a shortage, then eventually the wage rate will increase. Okay, will increase so that the quantity demand of labor will equal the quantity supply of labor. So, for instance, here, let's say, this is wage rate, and this is labor. Okay, this is here wages. Okay, and this is labor. This is the demand for labor, and this is supply for labor. And this is the wage, and this is the labor. Okay? So this is the demand for labor is downward sloping, which implies the higher the wage rate, of course, the lower is the quantity demanded of labor. And the supply of labor is upward sloping, which implies the higher the wage rate, the higher the quantity supplied of labor. And so W0, of course, is the equilibrium wage rate. It's at the intersection of the demand for labor and the supply of labor. So now if, there is a surplus in the labor market, surplus over here, then eventually the wage rate will decrease, let's say over here, okay, W1. So what happens? The wage rate will decrease until, equilibrium is reached, until the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. Okay? So, also if there is a shortage, in the labor market, then the price level will increase until the quantity demand of labor equals the quantity supply of labor. So therefore, as you can see, the views of the classical economists is that the wage rate, will rise or fall in response to any shortage or surplus in the labor market. because they believe that the shortage and surplus in the labor market is temporary, and therefore the wage rate will rise and fall in response to any shortage or surplus. Now, so let me say that here, that if the labor market is having a surplus, then this is temporary, and that the wage rate will eventually decrease, so that quantity demanded of labor will equal the quantity supplied of labor. The same thing can be said about if the economy is experiencing or is having a shortage. Okay, the picture here, the graph will show that. So if we have a shortage, then the wage rate will increase, so that eventually the quantity demand of labor will equate the quantity supplied of labor. Okay. Now, what about the prices? Okay, what holds in the labor market holds in the goods and service market. Okay, here what holds of course in the wage rate will hold for the prices in the goods and services market. So prices are also flexible in the goods and services market. Prices will rise and fall in response to shortages and services. Okay, so for instance, as you can see, this is price level here. This is, of course, and here, over here, quantity. This is the demand, and this is supply, and this is the price, is zero. And this is here, Q0. Okay? So if the economy is experiencing a surplus in the goods and service market, then what happens? This is surplus here. Okay, let's say at P1 we have a surplus here. So what happens here? Of course, the surplus, it means the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. So eventually the price will decrease. The price level will decrease. Okay, until until equilibrium is established. Okay, until quantity demand equal quantity supply. And if the economy is experiencing a shortage, we have a shortage in the goods and service market, then of course the prices will increase until equilibrium is re-established. So therefore, the classical views is that wages and prices will rise and fall in response to shortages and services. In the labor market and the goods market. The goods and services market. Okay, now we're going to move to look, of course, at the views of the economists who believe that the economy is self-regulating. So let's move here to talk about the views of the economists who believe that the economy is self-regulating. So here we're gonna have, of course, we're gonna study, of course, the views of those economists, and of course, we're going to talk about three states in the economy, and of course, the correspondence between these states and the labor market. So now here, we're here we will study the views of the economists who believe that the economy is self-regulating. So here, what we're going to do here, we're going to study the reviews concerning three states in the economy and the correspondence between these states and the labor market. So, of course, economists, when considering these, the relationship, between the real GDP, okay, and the national GDP, economists refer to three states. So here we're going to say economists refer to three states when considering the relationship between the GDP and the national GDP. So economists refer to three states when considering the relationship between GDP and the national GDP. Of course, remember, we said in the chapter about aggregate demand and aggregate supply, we said that the level of GDP, the level of real GDP that the economy produces in the long run is called the national real GDP, or the full employment output, or the potential output. And in the long run, the current demand of real GDP is equal to the constant of real GDP and is equal to the national real GDP. However, in the short run, the quantity demand of real GDP is equal to the constant of real GDP, but this does not equal to national real GDP. So now, of course, we're going to talk about three states in the economy when looking at the relationship between the GDP that the economy is producing and the national GDP. Okay, what are those states? Remember that when the aggregate demand intersects the short-run aggregate supply, we get short-run equilibrium. So we get a real GDP, okay, in the economy, and that real GDP that the economy is producing in the short run may be less than the national GDP, or may be greater than the national GDP, or could be equal to the national GDP. So we're going to consider these three states. So what are those states? We have three states. First, real GDP is less than natural real GDP. And natural GDP, or full employment output, or potential GDP, stands for it QN. We use QN to refer to the national GDP. So this is the first case. Real GDP, or the first state, real GDP is less than national real GDP. Let's show these graphically. Okay, graphically, we're gonna see this one. This is, of course, price, and this is real GDP. This is aggregate demand, downward sloping. This is short-term aggregate supply. Okay, and the economy is now here. Q1. This is P0. Okay. Now we said real GDP. This is Q1 is less than national GDP. This is national GDP. This is Q1, and this is long run aggregate supply. Long run aggregate supply, of course, intersects the horizontal axis at Qn. Okay, so this is Qn is the quantity of output that the economy produces in the long run. So as you can see here, Q1 is the short-run equilibrium, where aggregate demand intersects with the short-run aggregate supply. This is the economy is here. Now the economy is producing Q1. Q1 is less than Qn. Okay? So in this here, we see that the economy, of course, is producing a level of output, Q1, that is less than the national level of output. Therefore, here we're going to say that the economy is in a recessionary gap. So in this case, this state, is in a recessionary so when Q1 is less than Qn, then the economy is in a recessionary gap. Q1 less than Qn, in this state, the economy is in a recessionary gap. Okay? What about the second state? Second state, of course, real GDP that the economy produces in the short run is greater than the natural real GDP, which is Q1. Okay? When real GDP that the economy is producing in the short term is greater than the natural GDP. So let's see that graphically. The price, this is real GDP, this is aggregate demand, this is short-term aggregate supply, and this is here the long-run aggregate supply. Long-run aggregate supply, and this is QM. Here, as you can see, Q1. So the economy is now at 1. The economy is at 1 here. The economy is at 0.1, reducing real GDP Q1. Q1 is greater than Q1. Q1 is greater than Q1. So this state is called, in this state, when Q1 is greater than Q1, we call this state inflationary gap. So here we have an inflationary gap when Q1 greater than Qn. Okay, so when the economy is producing a level of output that is greater than the national GDP or the potential GDP or the full employment output, of course, then we have an inflationary gap. Now, what about the third, of course, state? Real GDP Q1 is equal, natural real GDP Qn. So here, of course, we're going to call that long-run equilibrium. So graphically, price, this is real GDP, this is aggregate demand, this is short-term aggregate supply, and this is long-run aggregate supply. This is Q1 equal Qn. So here, the economy is producing 0.1 here, a level of output Q1 that is exactly equal Qn, the national GDP. So in this case, we say that the economy is in long-run equilibrium. So here, the economy is in long-run equilibrium. when Q1, the level of output, that the economy is producing in the short run is equal to Qm. So when the level of output that the economy is producing in the short run, Q1, is equivalent to Qm, to the national GDP, then we say that the economy is in, of course, long run equilibrium. The economy, of course, is in long run equilibrium when Q1, the level of output that, of course, the economy is producing in the short run is equal to Qm. So when Q1 equal to Qm, and this is graphically over here, you can see graphically, of course, when Q1 equal to Qn, then we say that we are in long run equilibrium. So as I said, we have three states in the economy. That's how the economists who believe that the economy is self-regulating, they refer to the relationship between the level of output that the economy is producing in the short term to the national GDP. They refer to three states, and these are the three states. State 1, real GDP is less than national GDP. Real GDP is greater than the national real GDP, and real GDP is equal to the natural real GDP. And so these are the three states in the economy that classical economists believe to have when considering the relationship between the level of output in the short run and the natural real GDP.